What is up, everybody? Welcome to another World Cup recap here on Touchline Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in today. As always, before I start, want to take a minute to say be sure to hit that subscribe button right here on YouTube. You can also use that QR code right next to me on the screen to go find all of my written work and become a subscriber at Substack. Your big headliner on Monday, the 28th, in this final set of group stage match day 2 games. Portugal get the 2-0 win over Uruguay. Portugal in control for most of this game. You still did see those shaky moments in defense, though, and I will continue to talk about this. It's one of the more interesting developments with this Portugal team. They don't look the same they did in that 2016 Euro 2016 run. They are continuing to create chances. They're more on the front foot, but you don't have that defensive foundation that was so important to them winning that tournament. Not necessarily a bad thing, but at some point you have to be able to rely on your defense to kind of lock things down. And while they have gotten away with 2 wins now, defensively they have not looked particularly convincing doing so, even though they dominated large portions of this game. There were just still those couple moments where there was, a turnover in Uruguay were in. The one time Rodrigo Bentancur just completely cut through Portugal's defense. Fede Valverde almost got a very strange goal that deflected off of his foot as he was closing down the goalkeeper, stuff like that. There were just some shaky moments, but ultimately Portugal are in control. They do go ahead in the second half. The goal is credited to Bruno Fernandes, who is having a fantastic tournament. That kind of kicked the game up a level. Now Uruguay are really trying to go for it. They do create some chances, apply some pressure late, don't come incredibly close to scoring, but certainly have a very good stretch, and then concede a penalty that kind of seals the game. Bruno Fernandes again. And the point I want to sort of emphasize here from a Uruguay perspective, Edison Cavani not nearly as effective from that striker position when he started. He was so good coming off of the bench. I really feel like he gave them some energy in that first game. Not the case here. They just didn't create enough chances over the entirety of the game to feel like they deserved a point out of this. Portugal were in control, were the better team. That second goal that they conceded on that penalty may become a really big deal when you're talking about goal difference and the way this group is setting up. Just about anything can happen here. Nobody's eliminated, so maybe it ends up not mattering much at all. Uruguay have plenty that they need to worry about before they're worried about goal differential. Mainly, they got to win this last game. But there is absolutely a scenario that involves some likely things happening that puts this into a goal differential conversation and applies extra pressure on Uruguay to not only win, but win by multiple goals because of that second goal they conceded. So that is the other big takeaway here. Uruguay overall disappointing. That's back-to-back games without scoring a goal. Simply not good enough. Again, Fede Valverde, not a major factor for most of this game. That needs to change on match day 3. Still not entirely convinced by this Portugal team, but they're finding ways to win and they're scoring multiple goals, which is important. It's not like these are 1-0s. They came late. They kind of came in bunches in both games. But the defense is where I have the concern, not the attack for Portugal. That is a good sign. They ultimately, look, a lot of teams are not doing a good job winning back-to-back games in this tournament. France did it. Now Portugal have done it. They're the third team. There hasn't been, and Brazil, of course, the other one. There hasn't been a lot of that in this tournament to put yourself in a really good position heading into that final group stage game. Portugal did find a way to do that. Speaking of Brazil, your other kind of higher profile matchup on Monday to finish match day 2. Brazil do get this win. Switzerland doesn't have a shot on goal, which is a nice segue to me talking sort of what I want to highlight in this game, which is the Brazilian defense. That attack gets so much attention, and rightfully so, because of how deep it is and how talented it is. don't forget that this Brazil team do not concede goals. Look at their track record throughout this incredible run they've had over the past, 3 or so years, really since that last World Cup in 2018. They don't give up goals. And a lot of that has to do with the attacking talent, obviously, and their ability to control games and limit your chances simply by bombarding your goal the entire game and not letting you get out of your own half. But there also is the part of this that it's, Casemiro, it's Thiago Silva, that back, and of course, the best duo of goalkeepers in the world. That back line is also really good, and I don't want that to get forgotten, especially in a game where the offense was fine, but not nearly as dynamic without Neymar as you would expect. There is a drop-off here without Neymar. Say what you want about him, have your own opinion about him. The evidence was pretty clear. He is an incredibly important piece of this team. Can they win a World Cup without him? Yeah, they can. I'm not sure that they are the clear favorites I feel like they are without him, though. And of course, it seems like he's going to be back for the knockout stage, which is really all that matters. You got plenty of other options to get through the group stage. But, you had Richarlison not getting back onside that wiped out Vinicius' goal, and it's Casemiro who comes up with a really nice piece of skill to ultimately get the goal, but it was not this fluid, breathtaking, sort of free-flowing attack that you saw at times in the first game. And not having Neymar had a lot to do with that. But ultimately, Brazil get the win. Switzerland still struggling to connect things offensively and attack, which sets up a really, really fascinating end in this group because of this Serbia-Cameroon 3-3 thriller we got to start the day. The last two games, not particularly enjoyable from an aesthetic standpoint. The first two, absolutely incredible. Starting with this one, Ghana are completely off the pace to start the game. Cameroon got two games confused here. Cameroon get the opening goal, and Serbia just completely turned this game around. They become the first team ever to score 2 first half stoppage time goals at a Men's World Cup. All of a sudden, they find themselves up 3-1. And you feel like the game is over, and Serbia are in a really good position heading into that final game. And then Vincent Aboubakar comes on the field. And not once but twice, Vincent Aboubakar has one of those situations where he is so wide open behind Serbia's defense that my initial reaction was, and I feel like most people's, there is no way in the world he is onside. And sure enough, he was onside both times. He scores with the beautiful chip, however you want to describe it, sets up Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, and it's 3-3 just like that. Terrific sort of back and forth game. And so both these teams are forced to settle for a point, which creates this fascinating dynamic with Serbia facing Switzerland. I'm not giving hope. I had Serbia coming out of this group. I'm not giving up hope on that. They're in a good spot if they can win that game. Obviously, it's a big if, but Switzerland not getting any points off Brazil really helps in that regard. And so now, just as you would hope, everything to play for in that final game. Jumped ahead a little bit mentioning Ghana. Ghana get the 3-2 win over South Korea. South Korea were all over Ghana to start this game. It looked like they might sort of be able to cruise. And then all of a sudden, just a 180-degree turn. And Ghana get 2 goals. In between, they looked like the more aggressive, more on top of the game team. The one with the initiative, the one with the energy. It's not like those 2 goals came out of nothing. They really built some momentum and had a sustained period of really good play. And then South Korea respond. Cho Gu-sung gets the start after what he did in the first game coming off the bench. Absolutely deserved that start. He rewards his manager with 2 goals to equalize, and you saw time and time again, just cross, most of them good. Special shout out to Kim Jin-soo for his service from the left. He was really good in this game. Nearly made my best 11. I just love Purvis Estupiñán and what he did too much for Ecuador in their game against the Netherlands. So Kim Jin-soo just missed out, but he would have been my second choice as a best 11 left back in this set of games. He was excellent. And all of a sudden it's 2-2 and kind of you have no idea what's going to happen next. If one of these teams can come away with a win, it changes the dynamic of the group. And ultimately it is Ghana who get that third goal. Mohamed Kudus is second of the game. He is excellent. He's been excellent for Ajax this season. You're seeing it in this World Cup. His price tag is just going up and up. He's kind of on that next set of guys from Ajax that are eventually going to be sold to a bigger club. And certainly helping his case in this tournament. He comes up huge for his country. And so now, again, just kind of all of these different situations are possible heading into match day 3. Because you have a Portugal-Ghana game, you would expect Portugal to win. That makes the Uruguay-South Korea game really interesting. But also, if Ghana find a way to beat Portugal, the other two teams are gone. And so that's really sort of the last thing I want to hit on here, not just about these games, but in general. You look across the groups. Yes, there are 2 teams who are eliminated. But you have so many of these kind of winner-take-all games, not necessarily guaranteed, but for the most part, you have 2 teams playing each other. One of them is going to advance. One of them isn't going to, depending on the outcome of the game. And then in the situations where you don't have that, it's because there are so many different outcomes that you can't even guess which games are going to matter more because the results of both of them are going to factor in. And that's kind of what you're seeing in these 2 groups where, okay, you know Brazil is through, but everybody else, and you know Portugal are through, but those other 3 teams, everybody feels like they've got a good shot and are to at least a certain degree kind of in control of their own destiny here. So this should be, I mean, you can't ask for a better setup heading into match day 3. That's one of my big takeaways from the way all of these results in match day 2 played out, is this is setting the table perfectly. We are going to have entertainment. We're going to have drama, watching these games unfold at the exact same time. It's setting up to have one of those situations, which, you know, as a neutral you love, where 3-4 times within the same 2-hour span, the teams advancing are going to change in most of these groups just because one goal means that much either way in either game. And like I said, that's all you can ask for. Really looking forward to it. That is all for today's recap. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.